Okay, today we are going to talk about anxiety and how you deal with anxiety when you're quitting smoking or really changing any kind of habit. So I have with me Marnie Schmidt, and my name is Leela Bryan. I teach people how to quit smoking, and Marnie is a Reiki instructor, and she deals with mind, body, uh, changes and how to deal with anxiety when you're quitting really any kind of habit, but we're going to concentrate on how you quit smoking and deal with anxiety because that happens to a lot of people when they quit smoking. So a lot of people when they quit smoking um, experience different kinds of anxiety. So Marty, can you tell us a little bit about what people can do with different kinds of anxiety?
Well, there's a lot you can do with it. Hi, Leela.
Hi.
Thank you for having me today.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do with the anxiety. And I think the most important thing to do is when you're first feeling it, recognizing what it is, where it's coming from, what message it has for you. And everybody's feelings of anxiety are going to show up for them differently.
Mhm.
Um, So there are many things that you can do. I think we're going to talk later about some specific things you can do, like in a coaching session, or things you can do on your own
Uh-huh.
outside of a coaching session. But the
Oh,
most important thing is to recognize that you're feeling anxiety and that it's probably, in this case specifically, probably aligned with changing a habit from smoking to not smoking.
okay. And so what are some techniques that you've uh, noticed that really help people with anxiety?
Well, there are some basic techniques. A really simple one that it surprises me how simple it is simply taking a sip of water.
Uh-huh.
Taking a sip of water starts the digestive process,
Mhm.
and um, it just it gets your nervous system focused on something that it totally knows how to do, and away from the mind focus on whatever's causing the anxiety. So if it's that you're at a time of day where you would normally smoke, or a stressful situation happens where you would normally smoke, taking a sip of water can take your nervous system out of that stress response and keep it into balance.
Okay. Great. And then and maybe we need to back up just a little bit. And I took it was there's a lot of different um, things like there's can you tell us the difference between like Reiki and healing touch and what Reiki does? Because there might be a few people here that don't really know even what Reiki is.
Right. Reiki is a Japanese energy healing technique.
Mhm.
And I'm not as familiar with healing touch. I've had some healing touch treatments,
Mhm.
but I'm not trained in that kind of energy work.
Right.
And I'm going to apologize because we're going to hear some noise. My cat just jumped up on my printer, so things might get crazy here.
Okay.
Um, but Reiki is basically, there are different levels of Reiki, and basically the practitioner is attuned to higher levels of energy than what most of us on earth are attuned to. So it basically goes up into the heavens with different levels of energy and attunes the body to those energy
Mhm.
energies. Um, what I do as a Reiki practitioner is I channel that energy.
Mhm.
I'm not doing anything with the energy. I'm not directing it. I am just the medium for it to get from the higher heavens to the person I'm working on.
Mhm.
Um, Reiki sessions can be done in person, although less so during COVID.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a perfect treatment for distance healing. Like all of my clients are distance clients.
Mhm.
So I have what we do in a Reiki session is I call the person at the scheduled time. We do kind of an intake, what's going on with them, what do they want their intention to be for the session. And I tell them what time I'm going to call back. We get off the phone. I go into my Reiki session. They, wherever they are, get comfortable, relax, try to turn off outside sensory inputs, ask people to leave them alone. Um, and they are just open to receiving Reiki energy during the session.
Right. And I learned about you. You were recommended on a Facebook group,
Yeah.
and was, I'll tell you a little bit about what you did for me. And I was, uh, I had a little bit of wax in my ear,
Yep.
and I have really good hearing. And I went to the doctor or the nurse, and they cleaned it out. And ever since that time, uh, it was like a couple months, I could just hear my heartbeat in my ear. And I knew it was from that cleaning. And the doctor gave me a whole bunch of medication that didn't work. And it just kept at the same intensity, and that it was hard to sleep. And nothing was working with the doctors, and I was,
Yeah.
fit to be tied. So I saw that you had healed some other people with Reiki in a distance way, because it is
Mhm,
during COVID now.
mhm.
And and I still have a teeny, 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 tiny thing that I notice just sometimes late at night when
Yep.
I'm getting to sleep, but it went away. I mean, I had it for months. And
Yeah.
then when you worked on me, it's, and eventually I know it's just going to all go away, but it just was a big difference. And I know it sounds, strange how somebody can, you know, heal on a distance, but it does work.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really cool to hear because I know we haven't followed up on that a whole lot.
Right. And
Um,
it was just something that sometimes there are things in this world that, you know, doctors or medicine can't
mhm.
fix. And sometimes you have to go, and you'll know when it is. And anxiety is really one of them, one of those things that you can't, I mean, you don't want to medicate for anxiety. You want to figure out what the real cause is and things like that.
Yeah, to a certain extent, there are situations where it's gone beyond like periodically feeling anxious or um, having an anxious response to a certain situation to more long-term psychological anxiety.
Uh-huh.
The
Okay.
cat is getting crazy. Um, um, so in the case where it is more a mental health issue and it is psychological, it is really important that someone get psychological help.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean they have to go on drugs. Um, but to see a therapist to get some mental health support in those situations is incredibly important. If
Okay.
if you know, and I've worked with people who I've had to say it seems like you're at a point where you need um, a psychologist or a therapist, and I can work with them and we can work in tandem, but it might be something beyond what coaching or Reiki can truly deal with. And I think it's really important that in those cases people do seek therapy
Right.
or medical help.
Right. And so it can go hand in hand, or sometimes you can just give them something to do for the anxiety. And by the way, if you sit through the rest of this recording. We have a special gift for you as a meditation that you'll get for free for
Yep.
sitting through. And so, what are some other things that people can do for anxiety?
There are there are a couple of things people can do with their breath. There's something called box breathing where you inhale, hold it, exhale, hold it, inhale, hold it, exhale, hold it, and go through that cycle for the same count each time.
Mhm.
And what I typically recommend is that you start at like 4 counts, because that's something, if you haven't been doing a lot of breath work, that's usually a capacity that somebody can manage. And you just keep kind of going around the box. And you might extend it to say 6 or 8 when you go around the box, but that helps get you out of your head and more into your body and just focused on your breathing.
Okay.
Another technique we have for regulating the breath is it helps to start with this one, lying down flat on the floor with your feet flat on the floor and your knees bent. And you put your hand on your belly and you breathe in kind of normally.
Mhm.
You hold it and then you exhale, and you try to make the exhale last at least twice as long as the inhale. And then you hold the exhale. When you feel like your lungs are empty, you hold the exhale until your body says, okay, it's time to breathe. Because your body's always going to tell you it's time to breathe. It doesn't want you to suffocate.
Right.
So by slowing down the exhale and then waiting until your body says, okay, I need more air, that is another way to calm the nervous system and get it back in balance.
Okay. And I notice a lot of times when people are uh, have quit smoking or are quitting in the process of quitting smoking, what they do is they try to substitute something for that smoking habit. And what I usually do is tell people to let the habit die of neglect. But if you have anxiety, you could do some of these other things, rather that it's probably a good thing to substitute, doing some of the like the box breathing or um, sipping some water to, um, you don't have to put something in for that habit, but you could do something different to relieve the anxiety.
Right. And I agree with that. I think I've never had to quit smoking, so I can't speak to the exact symptoms that someone might feel.
Mhm.
But I do know that as you're quitting smoking or quitting anything that um, kind of has a toxin buildup in your system,
Uh-huh.
if you quit it, you're going to have some detox symptoms.
Mhm.
You're physically and emotionally, like physically, your body's finally had an opportunity to release the toxins it's been holding in. And emotionally, whatever you've been kind of covering up by smoking,
Mhm.
that's going to start showing up in your life. So you're going to be more sensitive to feeling those emotions and feeling that emotional and physical detox.
Right. And I've always, when I teach people how to quit smoking, I've been doing that since I quit in 1978. What I've noticed is whatever that they used for for dealing with life when they were smoking, like if they were dealing, if you got really angry at somebody and you go and smoke, that anger will build up and it'll come in the form of either anger or anxiety or something like that. Or if you used to smoke for anxiety, that will show up. So these tools are really important to be able to deal with that, because otherwise you don't want to go back to smoking. So
Right.
you want to be able to deal with the anxiety rather than um, you know use it to um, for to smoke for it. And so
Right.
is there anything else that that the our listeners can that you want to tell them about anxiety?
Um, Maybe not necessarily about anxiety specifically, but another tool they could use on their own is it's a tool that releases serotonin, which is a good thing we all need.
Right.
Um, and you can do it in a couple different ways, but the main way to do it, and I'm going to play with my ears now, is
Okay.
there are 4 points on the ears that they're gonna mess with. But the first thing they're gonna do is at the top of their ears is kind of pull their ears out, like give themselves elephant ears.
Okay.
Do that for a few breaths, and then go down just above the midline and do that for a few breaths, pull their ears out again. And then below the midline, pull kind of more down for a few breaths, and then pull the earlobes down for a few breaths.
Huh.
And then I like to just rub my ears like my massage therapist used to do, just rub my ears down.
Hmm.
And then finally, if you want a little extra boost, you've got that crease halfway in your ear. If you put your thumbs right under that crease and just kind of push in for a few breaths, that will also, again, rebalance the nervous system and kind of get you out of that anxiety response.
Wow. So
But if
pulling on your ears, who knew?
I know, right? And you can just be on a call and be rubbing your ears and nobody'll know what you're doing.
Yeah, I just,
Yep.
huh.
Um, so some things you can do though, like if you wanted to work with a coach or a Reiki practitioner, you could, in a Reiki session, your intention could be supporting your new habit. It could be um, relieving the sensations of anxiety,
Mhm.
um, getting messages that you might need to hear from your own inner wisdom
Mhm.
during the session. So you can have that intention, and that's kind of what I did with the free gift guided meditation. Was I incorporated Reiki symbols that would support people in dealing with anxiety, but also in supporting their new habit, whatever's replacing, if it's nothing or if it's an actual action
Mhm.
that's replacing smoking.
Cool.
Um, so you can do a guided meditation like that. You can have a Reiki session. You can get some body work done and go to a massage therapist or acupuncture, that sort of thing. And then in my mind body work, if I'm coaching somebody who wants to work on mind body stuff, what you were just explaining about how someone might act out in anger,
Mhm.
I have some tools specifically designed to help a person feel their own energy space
Mhm.
so that those feelings of anger are still going to exist. They're still going to have reactions and emotions to situations. Um, and we kind of want people to have reactions and emotions.
Mm.
But when it gets outside of their energetic space is when it usually becomes a problem. So I have mind body tools that help keep that, allow a person to have a safe space to have those emotions without them blowing up on other people.
Cool. Okay. And so if people, what are some other things that you do that if somebody would like to work with you um, in more depth, like I did, um,
Hmm.
and if they have a certain thing that maybe they've tried box breathing or sipping and ears and they just need more, how would I know we're going to leave a link in the show notes
Yeah.
for people to get that free guided meditation. But if they want to work with you more, like I did on a one on one, will be leaving some, information on how you can get a hold of Marty. But tell them a few things about how you can work with him.
Okay. Um, well, on my website, you can book a Reiki session.
Uh-huh.
You can book a coaching session where we would go through some of those mind body tools, and that we could also go down the coaching path of looking at your family and societal programming that kind of led you to the smoking habit, and start breaking down what is programming and what is actually your own beliefs and values.
Mhm.
um, And something we haven't talked about at all is somebody could book an astrology reading. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of information to be found in a person's natal chart, which is the chart that shows where all the planets were at the moment you were born.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, when they think of astrology, they think of the sun sign and they look up their horoscope and it doesn't fit or it feels wonky or that. And that's because your main pillars of your personality are the sun, moon, and rising sign and how they all work together.
Mhm.
And no newspaper horoscope is going to know what all your stuff is.
Right.
So we can look at those things. We can also look at some other aspects of the chart that indicate how you might work with your habits and changing habits in a way that's actually authentic to you, not a forced, prescribed
Wow.
situation.
And then I've worked with you on that as well.
Yeah.
I'm a follower. And so also tell people, just in case they have horses, what you also do. I mean, do you do
Oh,
that with, yeah, this is a new training that you've done. You're like
yes.
me, I'm always learning new things. So
Yes. And I'm actually just forming how it all really closely fits together and building my programs around that.
Mhm.
But I am a trained equus coach, and I am looking for a horse to either lease or maybe someday own. And I could work with people who have their own horses. I could come to them. But basically, you get a client in a round pen or a herding arena with a horse, and it's a coaching session, but it's really the person working with the horse. And we use horses because they're prey animals and we're predators. And so the way they operate in nature and the way they survive um, helps us work with them in a session to help see how a person is actually showing up in the world.
Mhm.
So if they're really bringing the energy to a situation that they think they are, and also to help people see how they might implement change in their life and how they have the power within them already. Like they don't need to it's going to make fun of myself. They don't need to take all the classes and that it's all right in them. They know they've got the tools.
Right. Now, can that needs to be done in person? Is that right?
Yeah.
With the horse?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that with distance.
It would be really hard to do that with distance.
Uh-huh.
I think you would have to have a person present to film, and I'd have to be able to watch the person live with the horse, and that could get wonky. But
And where are you located?
I'm located just outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Okay. So just in case somebody, had horses and things like that. So,
Yeah,
uh,
thank you.
so
Yeah,
you have a whole array of really interesting training. So,
I feel like it. I enjoy it.
oh, that's great. Okay, anything else you want to tell the group? We're gonna leave your website is called um,
It's marnieschmid.com.
okay, and we'll have all that in the show notes.
Okay.
And we'll also have the free guided meditation, which is fabulous and great music too. I love that.
Thank you. I enjoyed picking out the music, and it was really fun to not only write the script but also incorporate special Reiki symbols and that, so that as you're listening to the recording, it you are receiving the Reiki even though we're not in a session. Um,
Right. And when you talk about Reiki symbols, um, basically you don't see them, but you hear them. Is that right?
you
Or,
don't even hear them.
oh,
It's me. I know I said I don't direct anything or that. And in any Reiki session, I'm going to ask Reiki to do whatever's in the client's highest good.
mhm.
But I can focus on certain symbols that I learned in class that relate to different parts of your energy, your life. And so I chose symbols specific to emotional and spiritual healing, and forming new habits
Mhm.
and empowering goals, that sort of thing. And I've taken Holy Fire 3 Reiki, which is um, kind of the first type of Reiki from this family of Reiki that people take. And I'm also trained in Karuna Reiki, which adds 8 more symbols and lots more heart healing and that. So
Wow. Yeah. And so when you're listening to the guided meditation, you may not really understand how much is involved in the background of this. Uh,
right.
but it's in there. And it will help with changing your habits, even if you're not a smoker or you never were. It'll
Yeah.
help with changing other habits as well. So
Yeah. And as we come into spring, everybody sets their New Year's resolutions and that, but this is actually a perfect time. I know people can watch this any time of year, but
right,
we're recording it in spring,
right,
almost spring. We're really close.
yeah,
And this is actually a really perfect time to work with earth energy to set intentions and work with new habits, because you're working with the earth the way it's sprouting and growing again after hibernation.
excellent. Well, thank you so much, Marnie, for talking with us about how to deal with anxiety, and it's a whole new world in there.
Yeah. Thank you, Leela. I really appreciate being here.
All righty, talk to you later.
Okay.
Be sure to listen to the guided meditation.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.